Hey, good morning. Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining us today. Last week we covered Deuteronomy 6. I want to just touch on some highlights so that we kind of keep our groove going as we're going through Deuteronomy here. You know, I love Deuteronomy. The statutes, the judgments, the ordinance, I try to put them in purple. We've got to see this. Look at verse 2. It says, "Then thou may fear Yehovah thy Elohim." Who's the thou? He's talking to Moses to talk to us, to keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee. Thee. Who's the thee? We've got to understand we're talking about Israel. Israel as the plural he, or each man in Israel separately. Could go either way. But regardless, his people are his men. His men have women and children, servants, and ger who dwell with them, male and female servants. But look what he's telling us, that thou may fear Yehovah thy Elohim. Remember, when we see this word, Yehovah, think of it as a comma, thy Elohim, comma. He's letting us know who our Elohim is. Yehovah thy Elohim. It sometimes says your Elohim, y'all's Elohim. Sometimes it says our Elohim. It says that in verse 4. We'll look at that in a moment. But we've got to understand that just because you're reading it doesn't make them your Elohim, especially if you're a woman. I get really high like that when I get excited, because these are things we've got to understand. We forget. We don't know. Yeah, we don't forget. We're just ignorant. We don't know who it is that Yehovah is talking to. He's not talking to a single Gentile. Not talking to a single woman. He's not even talking to all the men who are with those men who call themselves Israel. The men are the Elohim, the lawmakers and judges of their women, their children, their sons and daughters. But he's going to teach, look what he says, to keep all his commandments, his statutes, which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy grandson. We're passing it down from generation to generation of sons, of seed, multi-generational men. All the days of thy life, that thy days may be prolonged. So much for us to understand. Look at verse 4. It says, "Hear, O Israel, hear Israel, Shema Israel. Yehovah our Elohim." Again, Yehovah, comma, our Elohim. Yehovah is first. We have one. The translators put in one because they want to try, and this is what everybody does, to work that Binitarian theology or that Trinitarian theology. Jesus and Yehovah and his Spirit. Folks, Yehovah is Spirit. Get over it. Learn not to commit this harlotry that we've been trained in. It's killing us. He says, "All these words which I command thee today shall be in thy heart." What words are we talking about? We're talking about the commandments, the statutes, the judgments. Those are the words that he commands thee today to be in thy heart, Israel, not the Gentiles. Men, we've got to learn to become Israel. How does a Gentile become a Ger and then a Ger become an Ezra man? Israel. We've got to learn it. It's on my blog, the Born Again series. Read it. He says, thou shalt teach them diligently to thy sons. Not children. Look at the word. Here it is right here. To thy sons. Clearly to thy sons. It has not to do with children, but they translate it as children. People have this memorized. You shall love the Lord, our God. Our God? Whose God are we talking about? Our God. This is Moses speaking. It's Moses and the rest of Israel. They're the our. Not the Christian church, the pastor, and the people that are listening. No, you got it wrong. You got to become Israel first. You got to leave the kingdom of your birth. He brought us out of Egypt. He says, thou shalt teach them diligently to thy sons. Talk of them when you sit in thy house, when thou walk by the way, when thou lie down, and when thou rise up. He says, thou shalt fear Yehovah. Fear. This is Yahweh. Let me look. I don't have it right now. It's Yahweh. Fear Yehovah and serve him. And shall take oaths in his name. He commands us to take oaths in his name. This is why the third commandment says, you shall not take the name of Yehovah in vain. He will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Because Yehovah does what he says, and he expects his heir to do exactly the same thing. But first you got to become his heir. He's not telling anybody else to swear oaths in his name except the Ezra. Israel, the heir. Look at this. 14. You shall not go after other Elohim, after other lawmakers and judges. The people's lawmaker and judges. This is who he's talking about. Who are all around you? Who are around you? It doesn't say all, just who are around you. He's a jealous Elohim. You know, we make this gods like it's some... I think we confuse it with idols. We're talking about lawmakers and judges. Other Elohim. Yeshua is another Elohim created by the Christian church, really the Catholic Church, to turn us away from Yehovah's instructions. He doesn't have anything new. We follow Yehovah if we're going to be his called out people. But first, we've got to separate ourselves from the kingdoms of this world and join ourselves to Yehovah as his Ger. Then at Passover, we can become his Ezra. Two more things I wanted to mention. Verse 24. And Yehovah commanded us to observe all these statutes, to fear Yehovah, our Elohim. Look at what he says. For our good always. His statutes, his judgments, his ordinances are for our good always. That he might preserve us alive until this day. Do you want to be preserved alive? Or do you want to be destroyed with the nations? That's what's going to happen in the end. You perish now. You're still following. Don't perish following the nation's Elohims. If you're going to die, die following Yehovah only. Make yourself his. Look at, they actually define righteousness for Israel. This is Israel's righteousness. This is not the Gentiles' righteousness. He says, then it will be righteousness for us. Who's us? Moses and Israel. If we are careful to observe all these commandments before Yehovah, our Elohim, as he commanded us. The Gentiles doing what they think is Yehovah's commandments isn't righteousness. It's an abomination. It's gray. You're showing the world gray because you're not Yehovah's. You belong to Obama, not Obama. What's the new guy's name? I forget. Oh, honey? Trump. Yeah, Trump. Like I really care. Oh my. All right, well, let's get started with today's lesson. Chapter 7. When Yehovah thy Elohim brings thee into the land which thou go to possess. Again, he's talking to the thee. Second person singular. Men. Each man separately. When Yehovah, comma, thy Elohim, comma, so it could say when Yehovah brings you into the land. They're just wanting to make sure you understand it's Yehovah, thy Elohim. Can't follow the other Elohim and be Yehovah's. Brings you into the land which thou go to possess, and has cast out many nations before thee. The Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thee. You know, I always look at these because we have to learn who the Canaanites are. Who are the sons of Canaan? They're the Canaanites. So to make the Canaanites added to this list is kind of erroneous. Because look at this. This is Yasher. It says the sons of Canaan were Zidon, Heth, Amari, Girgashi, Hivi, Arki, Seni, Aradi, Zemoti, and Kamathi. Okay, in Torah, Genesis 10, it says this: Canaan begat Sidon. Okay, he did begat Sidon. There he is, Zidon, right there. Then it says Heth. He's got Heth. But after that, they go Amorite, Girgashites. The Amorite are all the seed of Amori. The Girgashite are all the seed of Girgashi. The Hivite are all the seed of Hivi. The Arvadites are all the seed of Arki. Arki, yeah. The Sinites are the seed of Sini. The Arvadites are the seed of Arvadi. The Zimrites are the seed of Zemoti. And the Kamathites are the seed of Kamathi. But now look at this. So if we're talking about the Canaanites, where does a parasite come from? A parasite. What is a parasite? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But let's take a look at this. The Hittites come from Het. Hittite is Hittite. It's just a different vowel that gets put into that. We've got the Girgashites. And there they are, Girgashi. We've got the Amorites. Amorites is from Amori. We've got the Hivites. It's Hivi. But we've got Jebusites. Who are the Jebusites? The Jebusites, according to Torah, says that Heth is the Jebusites. Well, is he the Hittite or is he the Jebusite? Perhaps he's both. Maybe those have to do with his sons. But a Jebusite is not Het. It's not Hit like the Hittites. So then again, we have Canaanites. Well, all these guys are Canaanites. It gets confusing. But Perizzite, let's look at this Perizzite. I did some research on this. I said, there's no Perizzites here. There's no Perizzites in the list, the sons of Canaan. This happens to be Moorish Bible Dictionary. I don't use this one very often, but this was the best thing that I could find from this man. It came out pretty good. It says this, Perizzites, one of the ancient nations in Palestine. They are several times only people named along with the Canaanites. So they're not a Canaanite, but they're named with the Canaanites, it looks like. Joseph's descendants were told by Joshua to take the land of the Perizzites, where they are classed with the giants. Here's Joshua 17:15. So Joshua answered them, If you are a great people, then go to the forest country and clear the place for yourself. They're the land of the Perizzites and the giants, since the mountains of Ephraim are too confined for you. So apparently there were Perizzites living with the giants, the sons of Anakim. Though they were in a great measure either driven out or slain by the Israelites, yet some dwell with Israel's seed and intermarried with them. Here's Judges says this. Let me see if I can pull this up. Thus Israel's seed dwelt with the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, there they are again, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. We got the Hittites and the Jebusites, the same thing. And they took their daughters for their wives and gave their daughters to their sons, and they served their Elohim. Shame on us. In the days of Solomon, those that were still in the land were made bondservants. It is not known definitely in what part of Canaan they were originally located, but by it was probably near Manasseh's lot on the west. Here's Joshua. I'm not going to get it all. Let's not use it. Anyway, Perizzites appear to be other people in the land. Maybe they're sojourners coming from other nations who are dwelling in that land, reckoning themselves among the Canaanites, so they're following the Elohim of the Canaanites, and have kind of joined themselves to them. I think that's the Perizzites that we're talking about. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, had they followed the Elohim of the Canaanites, would have become Perizzites. Co-dwellers, it appears to me. But you're doing it with the Canaanites, regardless of the tribe that you happen to be a part of. I had another note up here. The thou, the you, the thou, the our is in Yehovah. Our Elohim is B'nai Israel, Israel's seed. Okay, well, we talked about that. So, we just want to reinforce that. I can't reinforce that enough. We don't get it. We have to understand who it is that Yehovah, through Moses, always talks to. It isn't the ladies. It's not the servants. It's not the ger. Verse 2. And when Yehovah, thy Elohim, delivers them over to thee, thou shalt conquer them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy to them. I was interested when I saw this word mercy. Here's the word that we're using right here. It's kanan. Kanan. Ben, stoop, favor, bestow. Show no mercy. We are supposed to utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them to keep them alive. Show them no mercy. This is going to happen in the last days. Oh, it's going to be awful. But it is going to happen. I know. You think about love thy neighbor as thyself. Again, we don't know who thy neighbor is. We don't know who the thy is, much less the neighbor. The thy is Israel, Ezra's seed. The neighbor is the Ger who dwell with us. Not that guy across the street. You're probably the guy across the street. You got to make yourself Yehovah's man. Not going to be shown mercy in those last days. 3. Nor shall you make marriages with them. Look at marriages with them. Then it says, you shall not give your daughter to their son. No, this is not how this is going down. It says, and you shall not give away thy daughter to his son. They have their son. No, thou shall not, I put you, that's a thou. Thou shalt not give away thy daughter to his son. Who's his? Talking about the people that we're going to utterly destroy. These 7 nations. Give away thy daughter to his sons, nor take his daughter to thy sons. We're not going to give our daughters. Give. Isn't that an interesting word? Give. Take. Remember, we lakak a woman and make her ours. They say married. They use marriage right here. I knew that was the wrong word. It doesn't say make marriages with them. It says thou shalt not give away thy daughter. That's what it says. They've added a bunch of words to this. Know that when you see the word marriage, there's more to get here. We're giving our daughter or taking another daughter, the daughter from the nations, for our son. We aren't supposed to do either one of those things. I put, which is the property, the son or the daughter? Look at it in the context. The property is the woman. The woman is being taken. The woman is being given. Depending on which way it's going. But she's property. She belongs to the son. She's going to become bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Him. But Yehovah doesn't want a woman coming to his son that's from the nations. For they will turn thy sons away from following me to serve other Elohim, lawmakers and judges. So the anger of Yehovah will be aroused against thee and destroy thee suddenly. Do you want to be destroyed suddenly? Don't take foreign daughters. First, you got to not be a foreign man. You got to become Yehovah's man. But thus, you, now we're turning to Ya'al. I put it in green so we can see it. But thus Ya'al shall deal with them. Ya'al shall destroy their altars, break down their sacred pillars, and cut down their wooden images. Here's what it's actually saying. Their altars. This is where an animal is killed for food or for a burnt offering. This is different from a brass altar in which a man can bring his sin offering. This is just an altar. Their altars. The next one was their monuments. Pillars. Their monument, memorial stones. This is a phallic symbol, if you will. A large penis standing on the landscape. It's really a way of saying, in your face, Yehovah. A feminine noun meaning something set upright. A word most often refers to a standing, unhewn block of stone utilized for religious and memorial purposes. The Washington Monument, there's a phallic symbol in the middle, gigantic phallic symbol in the middle of St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome. In fact, if you look from it from the air, you've got even the, dare I say, the vagina around it. Check it out from the air. It's wickedness. This is a Baal, Nimrodian, and Ashtoreth symbols that are in front of this pagan place of worship. And I do mean pagan. Wooden images. Let's look what the wooden images are. It's the feminine. This is the feminine part. So we had the Baal part. Now we got the Ashtoreth part. This is the feminine images. Perhaps Mother Mary, the Statue of Liberty. This is what we're talking about. It says they're Ashtoreth. It doesn't say wooden images. They're Ashtoreth. Why don't they want us to, and they're Ashtoreth? Why don't they want us to understand what we're talking about? Is it because of Mother Mary? They don't want to turn us away from Mother Mary? Baby Jesus? Oh, folks, the whole thing is so wicked. Here's Ashtoreth again, a feminine noun which signifies the Canaanite fertility goddess believed to be a consort of Baal. Baal. Yeah, Nimrod. Because of this association, the worship of Baal and Ashtoreth was often linked together. Yes, they are. Well, we end up with Yeshua being the Baal and Mary, the mother. It's confused. It goes back and forth. Rio de Janeiro, Jesus holding his arms out over the city. This is what we're going to do. Destroy their altars, break down their sacred pillars, cut down their wooden images, burn their carved images with fire. Here's the word for that, the masculine noun meaning idol. This word comes from the verb pascal, means to hew or to cut, which was done to create a carved image. In the law of the Old Testament, it was clear that such idols should be burned and cut down. They provoke Yehovah to anger and excite him to judgment. Yeah, he does. He's a jealous Elohim. Saw that last week. Well, look what he says now in verse 6. For you, y'all, again it's in green, for y'all are a holy people to Yehovah, your Elohim. Yehovah, your Elohim, look, he uses it twice, has chosen you to be a people for himself. A special treasure, a segula above all the people on the face of the earth. Oh, we're not talking about just any people. We're talking about the Ezra men, those who have made Yehovah their Elohim. Here they are again. This is in Deuteronomy 7, special treasure. Here it is right here, segula. But look, here's 19. He said exactly the same thing. Now, therefore, if you indeed obey my voice, keep my covenant. Remember, talking about keeping his covenant, the Berit. What does he say? Gather together to me gather together my kind. Those who cut Berit with me by slaughter. This is what he's talking about, the Ezra men. Talking about Passover. Now therefore, if you indeed obey my voice, keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people. He's not talking to the Egyptians. He's talking to us after we kept Passover and came out of Egypt. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice, keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure, that's the segula again, to me above all people. For the earth, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be a kingdom of priests, men priests, not lady priests, and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to Israel's seed. Israel's seed, he's saying the same thing to Israel's seed, those people who have Yehovah as their Elohim. Same group of people. Look what he says, Malachi. They shall be mine, says Yehovah of hosts, on the day that I make them a special treasure. And I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. We're talking about a man sparing his own son who fears him. Remember, bone of our bone, flesh of our flesh is going to be spared also, just like Noah's woman was spared, just like his son's women were spared. Special treasure, segula. Look at this. A feminine noun meaning a personal possession, a special possession, property. This noun is only used 6 times, but it gives one of the most memorable depictions of Yehovah's relationship to his people and the place established for them. His special treasure, someone described it as something that Yehovah holds close to himself and never lets it out of his reach. We are the special treasure, but we've got to become the special treasure. Above all the people on the face of the earth, we're a small nation, a nation of few people, but we are the segula of Yehovah. Verse 7. Yehovah did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were here we are right here, because you were more in number than any other people. For you were the least of all people. Yes, we're a small nation. We were the least of all people. Look what he says for that. Ye were the fewest of all the peoples. The word that they use here is ma'at. Ma'at. Little few of all the peoples. Ha-amim. Memes, that's all the people on the earth. But because Yehovah loves you all, and because he would keep the oath, Shavua, the oath which he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yehovah has brought you all out with a mighty hand to redeem, what he changed, to redeem thee, each one of you, from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. You're not going to be the you that he's talking about here if you haven't come out of Egypt. Are you still there? Are you still serving them? You're not Yehovah's. We've got to renounce those covenants. Become Yehovah. It's not about leaving a piece of ground. It's about leaving our Elohim and choosing to serve other Elohim. That's what Joshua did. Remember? What did he say? Choose ye today whom you shall serve. Whether it be the Elohim, which your father served on the other side of the river, back in Ur, back in Babylon, back in the Chaldees, or the Elohim of the people in whose land ye dwell. We're serving the Elohim of the people in the land we dwell, most of us. But we've got to choose to leave them. Joshua said, as for me and my house, we shall serve Yehovah. Joshua is speaking for his whole house. because he's the Ezra man. Everybody else in his house is going to follow him. Therefore know that Yehovah, thy Elohim, he is the Elohim. Look at this. Yehovah, thy Elohim, he is the Elohim, ha Elohim. It says, the faithful. They got that translated well. The faithful. The El. He is the El. The faithful. The faithful El, I guess you could say it that way, who keeps covenant and mercy, who keeps covenant, Bereshit, ha Bereshit, and kindness. Ooh, this is the cool word. Look at this, you guys. It is the same word, kasid. It's actually kased. It's being used as a verb. Keeps kindness. Remember, we're talking about kindness for his kind. Kasid was gathered together, my kind, my kasid. Actually, it's kind, my kind. Kasid is what he's saying there. My kind, those who cut covenant with me by slaughter. He shows kindness to his kind. He doesn't show kindness to anyone but his kind and those who have joined his kind. With those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. B'nai, generations of sons. We teach it to our sons and our sons' sons and our sons' sons' sons. And he repays those who hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack with him who hates him. He will repay him to his face. In your face is what we're talking about. He will repay them. He repays to their face. This is ESV, English Standard Version. And he repays to their face those who hate him by destroying them. He will not be slack with one who hates him. He will repay him to his face. You know, you say you love him. Many say they love him. But they've never left the Elohim. They're still serving those other Elohim. Can't do it. Can't do it. You keep a few of his commandments and think you're his? You're deceiving yourself. He didn't tell any Egyptians to keep any of his commandments, did he? Verse 11. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which I command you today to do them. He commands us today to do them. Then it shall come to pass, because thou listened to these judgments, to keep and do them, that Yehovah, thy Elohim, will keep with thee the covenant. It says, keep for you. He shows kased for his kasid. Kindness. Kindness for his kind. Covenant and kindness, which he swore to thy fathers. Do you see how those two words are tied together? It gets translated as mercy, but it's kindness for his kind. It's for his people. It's not for the Gentiles. He just said he's going to destroy them. It says those who hate him. Well, those who hate him are the ones who love their own Elohim. They haven't made him their Elohim. which he swore to your fathers, thy fathers. And he will love thee, and bless thee, and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb. Did you hear that? He's going to bless the fruit of thy womb. What is thy womb? Those are the women who belong to us. Bone of our bone, flesh of our flesh. The fruit of thy land. Remember, it's all about these men, the heirs. They're the ones that get the land. Thy grain, thy new wine, thy oil, and the increase of thy cattle, the offspring of thy flocks. Increase of your cattle. It's blessing the cattle's womb, the flock's womb, in the land which he swore to thy fathers to give thee. Didn't swear it to his mothers, he swore it to the fathers to give it to thee, his Ezra men, his Kassid, those who cut covenant with him by slaughter. It says, thou shalt be blessed above all peoples. There shall not be a male or a female barren. Here's the male, a sterile man. There's what it extirpated, as extirpated in a genitive organ. A sterile man. That's talking about the Yvette. This is talking about his servants. And a sterile woman, and a ma. Sterile woman. There shall not be a male or a female barren among thee, or among thy livestock. Thy womb must be then our women, because now we're talking about the male and the female servants, and among thy livestock. Livestock would encompass all of the animals. It's the behemoth, is the word that they're using. All thy livestock would encompass the ox, well, the cattle, and the flocks, zeon, the sheep and the goats. But it would also encompass donkeys and some of the unclean animals as well. 15. And Yehovah will take away from thee all sickness, and will afflict thee with none of the terrible diseases of Egypt. Let's look at that word terrible, just out of curiosity. Terrible, what is the word that they use them? Is it Yahweh? Of the... That looks like it might be an added word. Yeah, none of the diseases of Egypt. Doesn't even say terrible. Okay, no terrible there. Some of the, with none of the diseases. This is my way of saying that word's not there. Of Egypt, which thou hast known, but will lay them on those who hate thee. These are promises that Yehovah is given to the Ezra men, those who make Yehovah their Elohim, those who enter into covenant with him by slaughter. Not the Gentiles. I'm trying to make a point. He says also, probably says and, you shall destroy all the people whom Yehovah thy Elohim delivers over to thee. Thy eye shall have no pity on them, nor shalt thou serve their Elohim. Who are their Elohim? Their lawmakers and judges. For that will be a snare to thee. If you should say in thy heart, These nations are greater than I. Well, they are. How can I dispossess them? You know what? Doesn't seem possible in the natural mind, does it? But we have to understand who it is that we serve. We say lots of things in our heart that do not agree with Yehovah's word. We've got to go back to what Yehovah says. Remember what he says. He searches the heart. Say in your heart. What's in your heart? Do you have faith implanted in your heart? Have you become Yehovah's men? Or you're just hoping that somehow, some way, you're going to become one of Yehovah's people without deliberate action on our own part? Does that ever happen? Show me one place where that's happened in the Torah. He searches the heart of a man. Look what he says. This is Jeremiah 17, 9 and 10. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man, look at that, every man, every ish, according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. Ultimately, we're going to be judged not because of what we hope for, but because of what we've done, who we've served, what we've done, the fruit of our doings. So it was when they came that they looked at Eliab. This is Samuel seeing Eliab, and said, surely Yehovah's anointed is before him. Eliab was the eldest son of David's father. David's father was, I forgot his name. But Yehovah said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For Yehovah does not see as men see. For man looks at the outward appearance, but Yehovah looks at the heart. Yehovah saw a different heart in David. He was a man that was going to follow Yehovah. Remember what he said. Who is this Philistine who stands before the armies of the living Elohim? He knew who he served. He wasn't afraid. This is what we're talking about right now. These nations are greater and mightier than we. And Samuel said to Jesse, that's his dad's name, are all the young men here? Then he said, there remains yet the youngest. There he is, keeping the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and bring him, for we will not sit down till he comes here. So he sent and brought him in. He was ruddy, with bright eyes and good looking. And Yehovah said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And Yehovah's spirit, Ruach Yehovah, came upon David from that time. It wasn't his spirit, it was Ruach Yehovah. Ruach Yehovah, spirit Yehovah, came upon David from that day forward. He says, thou shalt not be afraid of them, but thou shalt remember well what Yehovah, thy Elohim, did to Pharaoh in Egypt. Remember! He's going to do it again. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Remember the great trials which your eyes saw, the signs and the wonders and the mighty hand and the outstretched arm by which Yehovah, thy Elohim, brought thee out. So shall Yehovah, thy Elohim, do to all the peoples of whom thou art afraid. Moreover, Yehovah thy Elohim will send the hornet. The hornet. Look at this. The word is wasp. Zerah. Zerah. A stinging. A wasp as stinging. Something that's going to sting. Will send a hornet among them until those who are left, they're hiding, who hid themselves from thee, are destroyed. He says, thou shalt not be terrified of them. For Yehovah thy Elohim, it says the great and awesome Elohim. It actually says, thy Elohim, for Yehovah thy Elohim, great and terrible El. Great and terrible El. There's no "the" there. It just says great and terrible. The word is Yareh. Yareh. Great and terrible El is among thee. Here, this is, they want to make it awesome. Awesome. Is he awesome or is he terrible? I think we get the wrong word and we fail to understand that we're talking about fear. Great and fearsome. Great and terrible. The great and terrible El. A great and terrible El. I guess it's not what it has to be. It's not the. A great and terrible El is among you. Among thee. Here, this is the same word exactly in 8:15. Look what it said. Who led you through the great and terrible wilderness. Now, why did they translate it as terrible there and awesome here? Let's switch it around. Who led you through the great and awesome wilderness, in which there were fiery serpents and scorpions, a thirsty land where there was no water, who brought water from the rock out of the flint, brought water for you out of the flinty rock. No, it doesn't work with awesome, does it? It's terrible. It's Yahweh. A great and terrible El is among thee, but he loves thee because we've made ourselves his. We are his segula. And Yehovah, thy Elohim, will drive out the nations before thee, little by little. It says, thou wilt be unable to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for thee. Hear that? If we destroy them all at once, the beasts are going to prosper. Probably on the dead, they'll propagate because they'll have so much food. We've got to do it little by little. He goes on, but Yehovah thy Elohim will deliver them over to thee and will inflict defeat upon them until they are destroyed. Who are we talking about? We're talking about the Elohim of the land. And he will deliver their kings into thy hand, and thou wilt destroy their name. Hear that? How do we destroy their name? We kill them. We destroy their name by destroying them and their seed. There's no seed left for those kings. We're going to destroy their name from under heaven. No one will be able to stand against thee until you have destroyed them. Now he switches it again to you. Y'all shall burn their carved images of their Elohim. What is that, like the Lincoln Memorial, maybe? The busts of past presidents. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for thyself, lest thou be snared by it. For it is an abomination to Yehovah thy Elohim. Last verse. Nor shalt thou bring an abomination into thy house, lest thou be doomed to destruction like it. No, the abomination isn't doomed to destruction. If you bring it into the house, you're doomed to destruction. Don't do it. Thou shalt utterly detest it and utterly abhor it, for it is an accursed thing. Wow. Chapter 8. Every commandment which I command y'all today, is that what it says today? I guess it is. Which I command y'all today, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land. You know, this is the land and the seed. Every commandment which I command you today, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply. There's the seed. We're the seed. This is the seed promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The seed in the land. Remember, it's always about the seed in the land. I'll multiply your seed and give you the land. And go in and possess the land. The seed get the land. Nobody else, the Gentiles don't get the land. If they're lucky, maybe they can join themselves, become the servants, and live in our land, serving us, perhaps not. And go in and possess the land of which Yehovah swore to your fathers. Now he switches it back to the second person singular. Thee, thou, thy. Verse 2. And thou shalt remember that Yehovah, thy Elohim, led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble thee and to test thee, to know what was in thy heart, whether thou would keep his commandments or not. Well, I have the same two verses that we just talked about. The heart is deceitful above all things. He tests every man to know his way. No, our allegiance to the Elohim that we serve is going to be the defining factor in the last days as to who's going to live and who's going to die. Do you serve Yehovah? Are you going to keep his commandments? It means that Passover, we're going to become his. Or are we going to serve the kings of this world? Your choice. But he's going to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. So he humbled thee and allowed thee to hunger and fed thee with manna, which thou did not know, nor did thy fathers know. It was new to us, that he might make thee know that, look what it says, a man, the man, Adam, the man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yehovah. The man lives. Adam lives. It's his seed. Remember, Adam was who was created in Genesis chapter 2. Adam didn't say Adam, it said Adam, the man. He spoke to the man. He created the man in his image and in his likeness. To the man, he gave the instructions to take care of the garden. Adam, not the woman. So he humbled thee and hungered thee and fed thee the manna which thou did not know, nor did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that the man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yehovah. The man lives. This is literally what it's saying. The man, Adam, lives. Not talking about the ladies. They lived differently. They had a different created purpose. Serve your man. He goes on. Thy garments did not wear out on thee, nor did thy feet swell these 40 years. Thou should know in thy heart that as a man, look at, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. Once you begin to see it, it's everywhere. That thou should know in thy heart that as a man chastens his son, so Yehovah thy Elohim chastens thee. Folks, open your eyes. Change your life. Become Yehovah's son. Let my son go that he might serve me. We didn't get to go until we became his son. Right after Passover, the day after Passover, the first day of unleavened bread, we went out. Because we became his son. Therefore, thou shalt keep the commandments of Yehovah thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, to fear him. For Yehovah thy Elohim is bringing you into a land, a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains, and springs that flow out of valleys and hills. Oh, do you hear what's going on here? The water is plentiful for us. He's going to give us a good land. A land of wheat and barley, of vines, fig trees, and pomegranates. A land of olive oil and honey. A land in which thou wilt eat bread without scarcity, in which thou wilt lack nothing. A land whose stones are iron, rich stones, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. Such wealth, such prosperity. But now look at what he says. When you have eaten and are full, then you shall bless Yehovah thy Elohim. That's going to be thy Elohim. Let's make sure we have it correct. For the good land which he has given thee. You know what? When I thought of this the first time, I thought, this is about praying after you eat, not before you eat. But I don't think that's the case. It's more. It's much more than this. This is an old note when I was still thinking that way about praying after you eat. And Abraham, finished his meal and he blessed Yehovah and said to Ishmael's woman. He went to visit Ishmael. Ishmael had a really wicked woman at that point. But this is really not about whether we pray before or after a meal. It's about keeping a grateful heart in the land of plenty which Yehovah has given to each of his sons. Keeping a grateful heart. I put tasted, experienced, and seen all the good things. We have tasted and experienced all the good things Yehovah has given thee. This is much more than food. Look at what we're just talking about. The hills that have copper. The stones that are made out of iron. The wealth. The bread that we eat without scarcity. We lack for nothing. The pomegranates, the wheat, the barley, the figs, the olive oil. The water that flows out of the hills. This is what we're talking about when we've tasted and seen that Yehovah is good. Don't forget him. Bless him for the good land which he has given thee. Oh, Father, don't let me forget bring me to that special land. 11. Beware that thou do not forget Yehovah, thy Elohim, by not keeping his commandments. Hear that? If we don't keep his commandments, he can't be our Elohim. But he didn't tell anybody but those who call him their Elohim to keep his commandments. It's catch-22. You've got to become his men. Beware that thou do not forget Yehovah, thy Elohim, by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, his statutes, which I command thee today. Thus, here he is again, lest when thou have eaten and are full. You know, we saw this really clearly. Let me just show you this one before I move on. It says, houses full of good things, which you did not fill. Hewn out wells, which you did not dig. Vineyards and olive trees, which you did not plant. When you have eaten and are full, then beware, lest you forget Yehovah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. Not talking about the guys who are still in Egypt, is they? Look at what he says. Almost the same thing here. That's when you have eaten and are full. Eaten and are full. What did this one say? Yeah, end of verse 11. When you have eaten and are full, then beware. When you have eaten and are full, and have built beautiful houses to dwell in them, and when your herds, and thy flocks multiply, thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou have is multiplied. When thy heart is lifted up, and thou forget Yehovah thy Elohim, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Don't forget Yehovah thy Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, who led thee through the great and terrible wilderness. There it is, terrible wilderness, in which there were fiery serpents and scorpions, and a thirsty land where there is no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers did not know, that he might humble thee, and that he might test thee to do thee good in the end. This is what he was talking about at the beginning of this chapter. So I can get it on here. And you shall remember that Yehovah thy Elohim led you all the way these 40 years through the wilderness, to humble thee, to test thee, to know what was in thy heart, whether thou would keep his commandments or not. So he humbled thee and allowed thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which you did not know, that he might make thee know that the man, shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yehovah shall the man live. Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers did not know, that he might humble thee, that he might test thee to do thee good in the end. Here they say then. You know, it's really and. But I like this translation as then. It's kind of keeps in the continuity of all the previous verses. Then thou say in your heart, by my power, and by my might, and by the might of my hand have I gained this wealth. He's just talking about all the good things that he's given us. And we forget. And we think that it's somehow because of us that we've got these things. By my power and by the might of my hand have I gained this wealth, you prideful man. And thou shalt remember Yehovah thy Elohim, for it is he who gives thee power to get wealth. It comes from Yehovah. He gives Israel the power to get wealth. He doesn't give it to the Gentiles. not true wealth. And thou shalt remember Yehovah thy Elohim, for he gives power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to thy fathers, as it is this day. Then it shall be, if thou by any means forget Yehovah thy Elohim, oh, don't let it happen, and follow other Elohim. Remember, he's not talking to the Gentiles. They haven't come to Elohim yet. They can't forget him. They haven't been with him and serve them and worship them. He's talking to the men who already are his. I testify against y'all this day that y'all shall surely perish, even though you're my men. But you forgot Yehovah thy Elohim and went and served other Elohim. The Elohim of the peoples who are all around you. Don't do it. As the nations which Yehovah destroys before you all, so you all shall perish, because you all would not be obedient to the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim. Again, it says, "Hear, O Israel." They always, almost never there. It just says, Shema Israel. Shema Israel. This says, you are to cross over the Jordan today. No, I don't think we are to cross over the Jordan today. This says, the day, ha-yom, the day thou cross over the Jordan to go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than thyself, cities and fortified cities, great and fortified in the skies. Fortified in the skies. The shamim, what he's saying, these are very high walls that we're going in to take. We don't have siege weapons. How do we defeat them? We jump. We tear the gates down. The gates of hell will not prevail against thee. In a sense, they didn't prevail against Israel's sons when he went to the 7 cities of the Canaanites and the Amalekites. They jumped over the walls. They tore down the gates. The Shamim talks about the fortified to the skies, in the Shamim. It's in Shamim. Shamim is the word there. Shamim. Shamim is where the birds fly. Look at this. This is Genesis 1:20. Then Yehovah said, let the waters abound with the abundance of living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens of Ha-Shamim. Shamim, that's where the birds fly. The walls are fortified high into the sky, is what he's saying. It says, a people great and tall. Anakim's seed. A people great and tall. Anakim's seed. Whom you know, and whom you heard, it said, who can stand before Anak's seed? One is Anakim's seed, the other is Anak's seed. Who can stand before Anak's seed? The multi-generations of Anak. We destroyed them all. David did. He stood before Anakim's seed, just like we'll be able to do. Those who make ourselves like David, have a heart for Yehovah, who will make themselves fully his. He can use us like he used David. Then, as he talked with them, there was a champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines. And he spoke according to the same words. So David heard them and all the men of Israel, all Israel's men. When they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. So Israel's men said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich with great riches, will give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes in Israel. Interesting. Then David woke. Remember they said in Samuel, if you take a king instead of Yehovah, he's going to tax you. We don't want to be taxed. We weren't supposed to have a king. Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the living Elohim's army? The army of the living Elohim, the living Elohim's army, the living. It actually says the living, living, the Kayim. To life, the Kayim. That's the Kayi. We can stand before those giants. We have giants in the land right now. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force. Huge giants. Homeland Security. Justice departments. All the three-letter boys. They're the giants in the land today. Are you afraid of them? No, Yehovah. We don't have to be afraid of them. Therefore understand today that Yehovah thy Elohim is he who goes before thee as a consuming fire. He will destroy them and bring them down before thee. So thou shalt drive them out and destroy them quickly, as Yehovah has said to thee. It's going to happen again. Do not think in thy heart, after Yehovah thy Elohim has cast them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness, by my might, by my great power, and by my mighty hand. No, because of my righteousness, Yehovah has brought me in to possess this land. It's not about our righteousness. Our righteousness, we keep it in part, but it's filthy rags. We got to learn how to do righteousness. But it's because of the wickedness of these nations that Yehovah is driving them out before thee. It is not because of thy righteousness or the uprightness of thy heart that thou go to possess their lands, but because of the wickedness of these nations that Yehovah thy Elohim drives them out from before thee, and that he may fulfill the word which Yehovah swore to thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the wickedness, and it's about the word that he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore understand that Yehovah thy Elohim is not giving thee this land to possess because of thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. I think it's interesting that he's saying thou are a stiff-necked people. I would expect him to say, ye are a stiff-necked people. But there's a transition going on here. Look at the very next verse. He says, remember, do not forget how thou provoked Yehovah thy Elohim to wrath in the wilderness, from the day y'all departed from the land of Egypt until y'all came to this place. You have been rebellious against Yehovah. But at least they departed. You know what? Most men won't depart. He goes on. And in Horeb, we were rebellious then. And in Horeb, you provoked Yehovah to wrath, so that Yehovah was angry enough with you to have destroyed you. Yeah, what did we do in Horeb? We built a golden calf. when I went up to the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant, which Yehovah made with you, with thee. I don't know if it's you or thee. I must be with you. Then I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, neither ate bread nor drank water. What's this word? Berit, the covenants. Covenant, the covenants. How does this work? No bread or water, 40 days, 40 nights. I don't get it. The man does not live by bread alone. But don't you need water? What did he do for that amount of time? Did Yehovah provide it for him? Did he go thirsty? How do you live for more than 3 or 4 days? Then Yehovah delivered to me 2 tablets of stone, written with Elohim's finger. And on them were the words which Yehovah had spoken to you all on the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. That was Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that Yehovah gave me 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. Then Yehovah said to me, arise, go down quickly from here for thy people. Listen to this. He's not saying my people. He says thy people, your people, Moses' people, whom thou brought out of Egypt, have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded image. Yehovah did not even call them his own people because we wanted to serve other Elohim. Most who say they are Yehovah's are not and have done exactly the same thing with Yeshua. You know, that's really true. Yeshua is their golden calf. I call Yeshua the modern day golden calf. We're worshiping and serving the image. Remember, he said, don't make an image of a male or female, or anything on the ground, or anything in the skies, or anything in the waters, or under the earth. But Jehovah's not talking to any man who are still numbered among the nations here. He's talking to those who came out and are returning back. You know, I say, doing exactly the same thing to Yeshua. But we're really not, because we're not talking to those who are saying they belong to Yehovah. These are people who actually do belong to Yehovah that are going back and serving other Elohim. You can't serve Yeshua and think you're Yehovah's. See, that's what we do. What does Yeshua have to do with you serving Yehovah? Nothing. Nothing. You've learned lies. You've made a doctrine based on the New Testament that has no foundation in the Torah. He's got 2 kinds of men, Ezra and Ger, that are in Israel. You got to become the Ger and then become the Ezra. Otherwise, you're not going to be his people. There are no exceptions. Furthermore, Yehovah spoke to me, saying, I have seen this people, and indeed they are a stiff-necked people. These are the guys that actually came out. They're still stiff-necked. You can bring a man out of Egypt, but getting Egypt out of the man, that's the tricky part, isn't it? He says, let me alone that I may destroy them and blot out their name. Because Moses prayed for us from under heaven, and I will make of thee a nation mightier and greater than thee. Yeah, he's talking about wiping out Israel and starting anew with Moses' seed. Could have done it. Take a little longer than 40 years, but he could have done it. So I turned and came down from the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. And I looked, and behold, y'all had sinned against Yehovah. your Elohim, had made for yourselves a molded calf. Y'all had turned aside quickly from the way which Yehovah had commanded y'all. Then I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my hand and broke them before your eyes. Then I fell down before Yehovah as at the first. 40 days and 40 nights, he's saying, I'm going back up the mountain for another 40 days and another 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor water because of all your sin, which you committed in doing wickedly in the sight of Yehovah to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and the hot displeasure which Yehovah was angry with you to destroy you. Remember, he already pleaded for them. He wanted to destroy them and their name, all their seed. But he kept them alive. And it wasn't until we failed to go into Canaan after the spies came back that he finally got so fed up with us that he decided, I'm going to destroy them, and their sons, their seed, are going to go in and possess the land. So we eventually died, those original men, 20 years and old and above, that were numbered when we came out of Egypt. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure with which Yehovah was angry with you all to destroy y'all. But Yehovah listened to me at that time, thankfully. And Yehovah was very angry with Aaron. Remember, it was Aaron who was really had peer pressure to make this molten image. It says, and Yehovah was very angry with Aaron, would have destroyed him. So I prayed for Aaron also at that time. I took your sin. What's that? The calf which you had made, and burned it with fire and crushed it and ground it very small until it was fine as dust. And I threw the dust into the brook that descended from the mountain. He goes on. You were bad there. Just talking about what happened at Horeb with the golden calf. Now he talks about and Tebrah and Massah and Kibroth Hata'avah. You provoked Yehovah to wrath. Tebrah is one of the many places Israel complained. They were complaining, you brought us out to kill us. He sent the plague on us. And Massah is where Moses struck the rock. It was also called Meribah. Massah and Meribah are the same places. It's where Moses struck the rock. We made him angry. He got fed up with us. Instead of doing what Yehovah said, speak to the rock, he struck the rock. And then Kibroth Hata'avah was where the quails, same chapter, where the quails, same chapter as the Tebrah incident, where the quails were given in the wrath. He fed us the quails till we became sick. All right. 23. Likewise, when Yehovah sent you all to Kadesh Barnea. Here we are, Kadesh Barnea. What happened in Kadesh Barnea? This is what the spies. Go up, possess the land which I was given you, and you all rebelled against, it says the commandments of Yehovah your Elohim. No, it says this, Yehovah your Elohim's voice. You rebelled against Yehovah your Elohim's voice, and you did not believe him or hear his voice or obey his voice. 24. You have been rebellious against Yehovah from the day I knew you. This is Moses speaking to Israel, saying, you have been rebellious to Yehovah from the day I knew you. I had to ask myself, what is the day that Moses knew them? When was that? Well, Moses was in Egypt as a boy and a young man. Remember, he left him when he was around 17. after killing one of the Pharaoh's servants who was picking on Israel, or when he came back with Yehovah for them. When are we talking about? I think you must be talking about the first, when we were still in Egypt. Y'all have been rebellious against Yehovah from the day I knew you. Thus I prostrated myself before Yehovah 40 days and 40 nights. I kept prostrating myself because Yehovah had said that he would destroy you. Remember we talked about duck and cover. We would say something. We saw it many, many times. Here's just a few times. How many times have we seen Moses and Aaron duck and cover? That's what I call it, duck and cover. They hear him talking. They fall down on their face before Yehovah. After the people, Israel, remember the people are Israel, the Ezra men, have rebelled against Yehovah. Here's just a few of them. 14:4 and 5. So they said to one another, let us select a leader and return to Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their face before the assembly of the congregation of Israel's seed. Yes, they're praying, they're interceding for them because they know Yehovah's hearing this and he wants to destroy them. Here's another one. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, you take too much on yourselves, for the congregation is holy, every one of them. Are they? And Yehovah is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of Yehovah? So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. No, they're not holy. They're not like Moses. Aaron said the same thing. Remember, so did his sister. Then they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim, the spirit of the Elohim, the spirit Elohim, the Elohim. I don't remember how it goes. I'll just read it as it is. O Elohim, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh. The spirit of all flesh. I'd have to look at it. Shall one man sin and you be angry at the congregation? Here's Moses is falling on his face again. No, Moses and Aaron. Get away from among this congregation that I may consume them for a moment. And they fell on their faces. Father, don't do it. I prostrated myself before thee 40 days. And 40 nights I kept prostrating myself because Yehovah said he would destroy you. Why? Because you're rebellious, stiff-necked people. Don't think in your hearts that because you're getting this land or you're getting it because of your righteousness. It's not by your might. It's not by your power. It's because of the promise that Yehovah made to his Chesed, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore I prayed to Yehovah and said, my master, Yehovah, do not destroy your people and your and thy inheritance, whom thou have redeemed with thy greatness, whom thou have brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Yeah, it says it looks like the Lord. No, this is Adonai. My master. My master. So I said, my master, Yehovah, do not destroy thy people, thy inheritance, his segula, his special treasure, his Ezra man, the sons of the son and son, Israel's seed. These are all different names for the same people. He passes down his seed to each successive generation. Just a few more verses. Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not unto the people's stubbornness, the stubbornness, and not unto his wickedness, the people's wickedness, nor his transgression, his kata'ah. His. It doesn't say their, it says his, the people, his wickedness, his kata'ah, his transgression. This is the plural he in action. We see it all the time. Lest the land from which thou brought us all should say, because here's what the land's going to say, this is what Egypt's going to say, this is what the world's going to say. Two things. Because Yehovah was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them, they died. Or because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. Don't let them speak badly of you, Yehovah. Yet they are thy people, thy inheritance, whom thou brought out by thy mighty power and by thy outstretched arm. Well, next week we're going to continue we're going to talk about the second set of commandments. We're going to talk about the second covenant next week. They very much relate to the second set of tablets that we had to present before Yehovah. Well, hey, thank you for joining me today. We will talk to you again next week. Remember, you can listen to all these teachings, verse by verse, through the Torah. We started, many years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And this is the second time that we've been through it. So there's lots of teaching up there, but you'll find something for every verse in the Torah on my YouTube channel. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you again next week. Bye now.